Murray. Paul, if you're ready, we're here and we're eager to hear what you have to say.
Yes, so thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very thankful for this opportunity to talk to you all. I do have, like I was just mentioning, there's so many things to talk about, and this is just like the introduction, and I'm going to be talking a bit more about dementia-friendly communities, but communities is just all of us. It's everyone. So I just want to tell you that even though I'm not new at the Alzheimer's Society, I'm new in this role. So I do have my notes. So thank you for your patience and understanding that I'll be reading quite a lot, but it's in my heart. There's a lot of things that I'm talking from my heart. So hopefully I won't sound like a robot. So, and I do also have like a PowerPoint presentation with me. So it's not as boring as just like listening to my words, but I have nice visual. Okay, so as one of our clients so powerfully shared, Alzheimer's disease is not just an issue of one random person, but rather a societal issue that involves us all. And this quote truly represents the heart of what we do at the Alzheimer's Society. It reminds us that dementia impacts not only individuals and families, but entire communities. It calls on all of us, neighbors, professionals, businesses, and community leaders to share the responsibility in creating environments that are understanding, supportive, and inclusive for people living with dementia. And we often hear the word dementia described as a journey. And that's for good reason, because dementia is not just a single moment in time or a fixed diagnosis. It is an ongoing, evolving experience, and that unfolds over months and years. While it does begin with the person who's diagnosed, it quickly becomes a shared path, that one that is also traveled by caregivers and families and friends. It's a path filled with challenges, emotion, and uncertainties, and I know that all too well because I'm here, then it's just not for my role. I've been with the Alzheimer's Society since 2018. I started with as the event philanthropy coordinator, so I was taking care of the walk and every fundraiser. The cause has always been close to my heart because I had family members and friends of the family was diagnosed with dementia. But in May 2023, it became even closer when my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And since my mother already passed away, my brother and I became his caregivers. Although I had worked in the field of dementia for 5 years, and I gained valuable knowledge and insight, I thought I had a good understanding of the impact of dementia, but living it has transformed the way I see the disease. And that's why I'm really committed to this message. It shapes the way I see things. It shapes the way I talk to people. It shapes even my passion about sharing this message because this journey is so much more harder and difficult than words can express. So I'm just going to put myself on hold a little bit and really want to start my presentation with the question that I really like to start presentation with. It's like, what is the difference between Alzheimer's disease and dementia? Is it the same thing? So most people will say yes, but actually the answer is no. Dementia is not one specific disease. It's an umbrella term for a set of symptoms caused by physical disorders affecting the brain. So there's Lewy body, there's frontotemporal, there's vascular dementia, and altogether there's about like 25 different diseases that can cause dementia. Accounts for 60 to 80% of them. So it is the most diagnosis. So that's why we hear about it more often. So now that we have this little like valuable nugget of information, let's dive in. So you are all familiar with age-friendly communities. So what is the difference? What is different about dementia-friendly communities? Honestly, there's not a lot, and they actually complement each other. Sometimes it just goes down to like making a few adjustments. Because we know that age-friendly communities create aims to support older adults by adapting physical and social environment to promote active aging for aging well. Well, a dementia-friendly community is built on the same principles. It just goes a step further by taking into account the cognitive, sensory, and social needs of people living with dementia. So it's small shifts that can make a big impact. And together we can do so much for our day-to-day world. Because after all, like people are people. And people living with dementia, they have the same right to live well in the communities as us. Yet there's stigma and taboo that still exists, and those create barriers. As more people are diagnosed each year, working together becomes essential. Collaboration allows us to strengthen support system and build better environments. Because members of dementia-friendly communities are people who are informed about dementia and understand that people live in it may experience the world differently than us. Their reality is changing. They have changes. And this difference deserves compassion, patience, and respect. That's what I would want for my loved ones. That's what I want for my father. I'd like that for my neighbors. I would want that for myself if I ever get diagnosed with dementia. So I'm pretty sure everybody feels the same way. So I'm really here to share how small little action within communities can create a big impact. Because being in the community is not the same thing as being part of the community. So what does a dementia-friendly community is really like? It's a place where people living with dementia, their caregivers and their family members are able to live good lives. So that means they can interact with people, they can do their day-to-day business, they can navigate physical public spaces, they can live as independently as possible. And that means that they can interact with people. They can live at home as long as they can also before being transitioned into a long-term care facility. And they can be part of the communities. They can take part of social activities. They can be members of committees. They can go shopping. And they're met with understanding, compassion, and giving support. So really, it's just like living like the rest of us in the community. As dementia progresses, changes occur. They affect the person's daily life. They experience the world differently, as I just mentioned. So those changes those are just some of the symptoms. So changes in vision. So visual, spatial, peripheral vision. There's changes in cognition, changes in communication, like aphasia, which impacts your speech, the way you write, your understanding of both written and spoken languages. It that impacts your speech, but not your intelligence. We always have to keep that in mind. And there's also echolalia, which is the repetition of words or phrases spoken by somebody else. Sometimes there's sounds also that they repeat. There are changes in inhibition. There's difficulty with balance and movement. There's hallucination, delusion, and paranoia. There's changes to mood or personality. So some of all of those changes and that occurs in a person's like experience and journey in dementia. So can you imagine going through all those changes? And that's part of the dementia journey. This is what happens. So why is it important now, like January 2026, to really start defining concrete steps? And this is one of the many reasons why I'm passionate about sharing this message is because there's never been a more urgent time to talk about dementia than right now. These numbers that you see on the screen, these are New Brunswick numbers. Those are not Canadian numbers. This is right here in our province. So there's going to be an 89% increase in the next 25 years. The Alzheimer's Society of Canada had a published a landmark study in 2022. There's three reports altogether. We're waiting for the third one like this year, and it's going to be on the economic impact. But this is really what they found out. This is a recent study, and these numbers are quite a little bit alarming. The next numbers always get to me. So we all woke up today, and we're all going to go to bed tonight. And in this time frame, there's six people in New Brunswick that will develop a form of dementia. So there's six people in our province that their lives and the lives of their family, their loved ones, will be changed in ways they cannot even expect. And the next slide is the leading reason for dementia-friendly communities. 61% of people diagnosed live in communities. They have lives, they have families, they have friends. So, and another point I'd like to share with you is that popular beliefs tend to think that dementia only affects like older people, like 95 and over, but 14% of New Brunswickers affected by dementia are below the age of 65. And I have two personal stories that I like to share when it comes to that ageism. Um, we have a friend of the family who was diagnosed. He was like a mover and shaker in the community. He was like a head of companies and things like that, super involved, musical, everything. And he was diagnosed with young onset dementia at the age of 55. And he passed away 3 years after at the age of 58. So sometimes like it can be really fast and they can be gone like too soon, unfortunately. And we also have like a volunteer in the Aquitain Peninsula, and she was involved with the society for her own daughter. So her daughter was 31 years old. She was a young lawyer and also a young mother. She had just given birth to her daughter, and it triggered frontotemporal dementia for some reason. And well, she developed not the pregnancy law, but she developed that at the age of 31. And within a year, she could not even recognize her own daughter. And she passed away at the age of 41. So it is not for older people. It is like something that can affect a lot of people at different ages. So as you can see, we need to take steps as a society, as community, as neighbors, as friends, to not just face that growing wave of dementia coming our way, but to create spaces for people to live well. And by doing this, we can keep people active in the communities for a longer period of time. And this will decrease isolation among people. Like the support of the community can really impact and decrease the isolation on people living with dementia and also their families. Because dementia is very lonely. Like neighbors, friends, and even families, they stop visiting. And not just because they don't care. It's just really they don't know what to say or what to do most of the time. And this really highlights why awareness and support in the community is so important. And our initiative, Dementia Friendly Community, really it brings the community together, and we really give the opportunity for businesses, organization, and local leaders a chance to team up with us. And really by working together, we can make both the social and physical spaces more welcoming for everyone. So that's what like a dementia friendly community really looks like. This is what my role is at the moment. So there's four major components of being dementia friendly. The first one is accessibility. So it's really making sure that people are safe in spaces. So, and navigating them like really easily. So for example, I hope that you can all see, I hope my thing is not in the way. Um, the picture here, because this is the entrance of our resource center in Fredericton. So as you can see, all the chairs are the same color, and it's a distinct color from the walls. And that goes with the vision, the decline in vision that people living with dementia can sometimes can get. So make sure that everything is clear. There's nothing from the front door to the desk. There's nothing that people can trip on, or like there's not a sign saying wait here or something like that, or here we're bilingual. Like there's nothing in the way. And one little trick that is also like pretty helpful also at home is that you will notice that there's no black rug. We don't have a rug at the entrance because sometimes a black rug, people can perceive that as a hole. So they will not cross a threshold and things like that. And those yellow signs that you see, we always use like clear fonts, and the paper is non-glossy, so it does not represent a glare. So sometimes you think it's just a detail, but that glare, people like with the fish decline their vision, that can really make them impossible to read the signs. So it's just sometimes like little things that can make life so much better. The second key is communication. It's and by that it's also interacting with people with dementia, because they can still have a voice, they can still communicate and have conversation. And I do wish that I have so much to say in one short presentation that I wish that, because what Rob said earlier about communicating, because we do have like presentation about like more in details. This is just an overview, but there's a few things that I can mention. Uh, is that when they lose their capacity, their capability of talking correctly, people with living with dementia have a tendency to rely more on nonverbal. So like the verbal, the words 7%, nonverbal 55%, and paraverbal, your tone, your speed, how you sound is really 38%. And some of the tricks that we always like tell people about the communication skills that they can have is really like, first of all, always make sure that you have eye contact with people. If the people's walking away or is back at you, make sure that you go around that person. Hey, John, how are you today? Like that is one of the first thing. The introducing yourself is always important. Uh, avoid elderly speaking or infantilize. I have a hard time with those words. Infantilize. You know what I'm saying? You guys are teachers, but that word, that kind of language. And that piece is always important because I talk so much about that with my brother. Don't correct them all the time. Just try to connect with them. Because sometimes always correcting a language, something they say or they forgot or they say wrong or they think wrong, like can be a source of anxiety and make them anxious. So sometimes it's just like connect with the feeling instead of correcting the sentence or what they're trying to say. Just like the connection is really important. Uh, sometimes there's and sometimes too like at one point the reality is different, so it's really, and that is something I really had to, like, my brother was struggling with that when my father was declining and was really trying to like reason like and understand and like, no daddy, this is why. Well, daddy was not in our reality anymore, so like that reasoning, so just try to connect with their emotion. And sometimes also it is hard. And I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes it's hard. My father does not really communicate anymore. And when people say, well, I don't know what to say, it's really complicated and I feel awkward. Well, do you know what? It's okay to feel awkward. And communication, like sometimes like you just have to talk, like talk about the memories, talk about things that you did in the past, talk about like the weather, talk about a book you read, like just talk. And sometimes the presence is more important than words. Just being there, like sometimes I'm just there with my father and I just look at him, and he's in his little world and does not really look at me, but I'm just there. So he knows like that and so that presence is so important. Um, Yeah, language still, that's another thing. Like that, a little quote that I have is language skills may decline, but the ability to feel excluded or ignored does not. And that is really something powerful too, but it is a journey. Back to dementia-friendly community, but communication weekend, like there's so much to say, and like really we can go into that. If there's something, a topic that I've touched in this introduction that like you want more details about it, please, that is something like I said, like I'm willing to come back and talk more about like a specific thing. So the third component about dementia-friendly communities is education and community engagement. And this is actually more than a mandate for us. It's actually our way of touching lives and the reason why we're here. Every time we share our message with communities and the public, we open hearts and mind. And that's where I truly believe that changes begin. Just the fact that Lucy asked about like Grand Falls, the coordinator, like we're all touching, it's all going to be connecting, and some families up north will be supported. So it's really like education is like, I absolutely love sharing our message. And the final component is actually championing. Because people living with dementia and their families, like they can serve as champions by raising awareness, by advocating and sharing their stories to help positive drive. And I'd like to take a little moment to introduce you to Mr. Jim Mann. So Jim was diagnosed with young onset dementia in 2007, and he was only 58 years old. And since then, he's been on a mission to make life different with people for people like him. And I'm just going to share with you a few of his accomplishments since he got his diagnosis, not after, since he got his diagnosis. In 2020, the University of British Columbia recognized him as the most influential person in Canada in countering stereotypes and building a more inclusive society for people living with dementia. He is also a co-investigator for a CIHR funded project on robotic assisted virtual care for older people with dementia. And in 2023, he received the AgeWell Honorary Fellow Award for his contribution to the age tech sector. So as you can see, people living with dementia can remain productive and be valuable members of their community. And this is one another reason why we need to keep on talking and advocating. I hope you can all see those people on the screen. So these are all people from our province. These are all people from New Brunswick. And the lower middle picture, that's me and my family. That's my brother. That's my little niece. And that is my father right there. So this is really why I'm committed to doing everything in my power to make sure that people like my father can experience meaningful moments within the precious time they have left. I know the day will come when he will ask me who I am. And even though I know it's coming and it's coming real soon, I know I will not be ready. And I know that I will need help and support to face that moment. And there's so many people in our province, like my family, that need the support from the people around us. This week alone in New Brunswick, there's 7,400 family and friend caregivers that are providing care for someone with dementia. They will provide 201,500 hours of unpaid care. And for context, this equals to 5,373 full-time employees. This is 1 week right here in New Brunswick. And caregiver, what I'd like to mention that caregiver or people with dementia frequently experience significant emotional and physical stress, and they're often described as secondary patients. Like they experience burnout, anxiety, and depression. Those are all common for them, and I think that it's not hard to understand why. Watching someone you love struggle to speak, lose their ability to dress themselves or eat, and eventually being unable to recognize their loved one, a diagnosis of dementia is a race against time. Last year, I was still able to have like short conversations with my father, but I can no longer do that. Like today, he just like says syllables and mix match words. But before I leave, I always tell him that I love him, and he says me too. And those words are the most important words for me right now. So there's many families like mine going through emotions and need so much support. And we do need help, like even from you guys, like just help us share the word about what's going on and what will be happening and how we can help. Um, Even though like the community support is so important, friend support is so important, and family support is so important, we need help from the experts. And I just want to touch a little bit about like what the Alzheimer's Society, what they can do. Because I'm honestly, every time I hear about someone who knows someone that has that's on that journey, I'm really honestly pleading with them to please reach out to the Alzheimer's Society because we can do so much. Like our first link, the first link program, this is really when we pick up the phone and you get like an appointment with the Alzheimer's Society, you get connected with the first link. Those people can put you in contact and help you navigate the system. Like they can even anticipate the needs that you have before you have them. Because when you're a caregiver and you get this diagnosed with dementia, like the shock is there and there's so many things to think about that you need that guidance, that you need that anchor to help you out. So that's the first thing. We also have like a telecounseling and psychotherapy program for caregivers only. So this is free therapy that you can get. And actually, we launched this program right here in New Brunswick and in 2022. And right now, like across Canada, they're adopting, other provinces are adopting that format. We have memory cafes. Memory cafes, that is like so nice because yes, we do educate a lot and do workshop and all that, but memory cafes is really just a social activities for caregivers and the person living with dementia. So we have games, we have music, we have a little bit of education, but it's just really a social a social place and a social safe place. We've got You First that I'm going to mention, and DFC, that's me. But the You First, I really want to highlight You First because you might know someone who needs to hear this. This is a new education program for caregivers, like for people who take care of someone at home. So what we do, we give them workshop to give them and teach them practical skills and coping skills and help them build confidence and strengthen the ability to provide effective person-centered care for the person they're taking care of. And in addition to that, we also provide that training to frontline staff in long-term care home. So we have for caregivers at home, for the spouses, for the family members, and we also have like a specific workshop for staff in residence. So this really it provides like life-changing support and makes a real meaningful difference for those caring for family members at home. So please help us spread the word about this new way of supporting our communities. This is really the money from the government, like the funding, this is exactly what we're doing with it, and that it needs to be done. Like it's so like we've, in 1 year of You First, we trained 515 people in long-term care homes, like staff members, and we also trained some to keep training the onboarding of new staff and all that. And we also trained over, like in 1 year, we helped 19 families, and that was just the first year. People still don't know about that. So like the calls are coming in and like it's really, but it is a life-changing. I took it myself, like just as a not as an employee, but as a caregiver. And that training workshop is just, you learn so much. I also want to mention that we do have 5 different resource centers in the province. So we do have, even though we don't have, like, I'm thinking Grand Falls, we don't have like a physical space, but we have people across the province. But the resource centers, we have one in Tracadie, we have one in Miramichi, we have one in Moncton, St. John, and Fredericton. So there's one near you. So I'd like to uh, coming to an end. So I just want to leave you with a quote that I heard and that really shapes the way I interact with people living with dementia. A person may not remember the exact words you said, but they will often remember how you made them feel. So, as we always need to keep this in mind because for someone living with memory loss, the time they have to remember us and connect with us is precious because those moments are limited. And that's really why at every level, we really do believe that inclusion really matters. Everybody has the right to live and live well. And this is really, this is a little aperçu. This is really, I would love to like say much more, but this is like the little introduction and what I had to share with you today. I'm just gonna stop sharing and so I can see you all. So any questions? Any questions or comments or suggestions? Oh, Rob, you're on mute. And you were saying that earlier.
I know to keep myself mute. All right. Anyone that has a question, just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask the question. Because I have a few myself, but I want you to get your questions answered.
I'm just wondering, this is Marion Humphrey.
Yeah.
I guess my photo's not up there yet, but anyway, question is, I'm in the Campbellton area, and it sounds as though the nearest center is in Tracadie to Campbellton.
The resource center is in Tracadie, yes, but
Okay.
we do have a staff member. We do have like a resource person, and she travels, and we also do a lot of virtual, like if COVID taught us something is the need for virtual care because even sometimes like we're in Canada, like there's snowstorms and so sometimes like having like in-person caregiver support group and things like that. Like so we do have that virtual component that is really like efficient and useful sometimes when we don't have a resource center, but you can definitely get some support and attend programs uh, without us having a physical, like we travel the province. That's what I'm trying
Okay,
to say. Yes.
great. So I guess a person would simply contact the nearest resource center and go
Yes.
from there.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I have one question. At the beginning, I didn't quite, my screen was split a bit. What was the percentage you said of early onset Alzheimer's? It was at the beginning of your presentation or dementia.
14%, wasn't it?
Oh, 14% of New Brunswickers are below the age of 65.
Uh, Under the age
Okay,
of 65. Yeah.
Yeah.
thank you.
Other questions? We had I could just a situation I faced. I talked about taking somebody out each week, but before that, we had a close friend who had dementia, and she was in Xanax. And her partner, her husband, would go and visit her, and he couldn't carry on a conversation with her at all. And the suggestion was made to him, why don't you take some photographs? And so they had traveled all their lives, all over the world, and they had recorded pictures from all those places. And so we started taking in a full set of pictures that were in a binder and would sit there and open it. And as soon as he did, his wife would just come alive and
Mhm.
she could talk
Yeah.
about everything that happened in those pictures, and she remembered things that he no longer remembered. And it was like, and then they could have a conversation about those things.
Yeah.
For him, it was an incredible revelation because he'd been sitting there looking at her, talking to her, but not getting any response. But all of a sudden, he had a response. And
Yes,
so
you have to,
that
it's
may be one of the
adapting.
tricks that we
No,
need to learn.
that's a wonderful example, and it's really connecting with them, like connecting with their reality and where they're at. And the long term memory is like really stronger. Like even like we see that with languages. Like my father was bilingual, but like we just had to move him to like another place because where he was at, it was an Anglophone nursing home, and now like he does not understand English whatsoever. So he's back to just one language. And also, like, he could not remember like our names and stuff like that. But my brother would show him pictures of old cars and it's like Chev 67, Oldsmobile, no, no, no. Like he would name old
Yes,
cars. So yeah, so it's really connecting with what they like, like like at one point, like he used to be an electrician. And the staff at the home would find him like in different rooms but he was checking the electrical beds, like so they kind of gave him like other electricity job. So it's just teachers, like there's a great example because you're all teachers. Like there was one teacher at the end of the day, she was always like looking and stealing papers and things like that. Well, come to find, she used to be a teacher, and at the end of the day, that's where she would grade paper. So what did the staff did? They gave her a bunch of paper, gave her a pencil, and she would just stand there and she would grade paper. She would grade news, like, but at least she was grading. So it's back to what like, and that's another example is there's a lot of homes now that have like dolls, like really that looks like baby because a lot of mothers, like the maternal instinct, it's something that is ingrained. So like they have their babies, they talk to the babies, they go put the babies to sleep and it calms them. So it's really like more connect, like finding ways. You have to be a little bit imaginative with
yes,
dementia and really go into their reality and where they're at right now.
yes. Good. My friend passed away, and his daughter came from New Zealand to see her mother, and she got no responses when she went in to see her mother. Her mother didn't know her and didn't understand why she was even there, and so we said to her, take in a picture, take some pictures and talk about the pictures, ones that you're in
Mhm.
as a child. Anyway, she took a picture in of herself and showed it to her mother. And when she was 11 years old, the daughter was 11, she showed this picture to her mother. And her mother said, "Oh, that's my daughter. It's Ellen. She doesn't
Mm.
live here anymore." And then
Yeah.
Ellen, the daughter, said, uh, I am your daughter. I'm Ellen.
Hmm.
She didn't know. She
Yeah.
she just stopped talking. And,
Yeah.
and I didn't have any advice for her to say, well, what could have happened after that? What could we have done differently that might have allowed for more interaction with them? It was very disappointing. The daughter was deeply saddened by that experience. She told us about it,
Mhm.
but she didn't know what to
Yeah.
do. We didn't know what to do that might have helped the situation. So I think that if we have people to contact, that could be a help.
Yes. And also sometimes there's nothing you could have done differently. Like if the connection, like sometimes depending on where that person is on the journey, like, because at first, like, even it's hard to diagnose dementia because like it's not just like you break an arm like your arm is broken like from like second zero, but dementia sometimes it's like a on and off switch. The switching on like the person's all okay and suddenly oh that memory lapse, oh it's but
Right,
after a while that those connections in your brain like they less and less, so like that's where like the other reality sits in kind of thing. But and sometimes you have to really accept that there's nothing that Ellen could have done.
right,
But really like, but that goes back to the presence because and maybe not remembering her as a person, but I'm sure that in her heart, because just the fact that she remembered her daughter from the picture, Ellen had to hold on to that memory. Sometimes you just hold on to where they're at, and dementia is like I know like my father's no longer my father, and but he's not suffering. Like you find yourself ways to comfort yourself. Like my dad is not suffering like my mom did before passing away. We're the ones suffering, and I'd rather me be the one that hurts than my father being the one that hurts. So so it's just like coping mechanism and the way to see things, but it is heart-wrenching for everyone. And like it's like I was saying, like the day my father like he does not say, "Hey Mary Paul, how are you?" But I know he recognizes me with his eyes. But
right.
the day that I will not see that, or the day that he will not say, I love you, I know there's nothing else I can do. It's another thing that has been taken away from me. And that's the harsh reality of, and the acceptance that comes with this disease, unfortunately. Yeah.
I really appreciated your comment about they may not understand your name or they may not even know your name, but they know how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And as
Yeah.
teachers, as retired teachers, we all know that the students that we had, and we tried to teach them many things, they may not remember that, but they will remember how we made them feel. And we
Absolutely.
know that as teachers. So that concept that you
Mhm.
present us with, we understand that one. That's one that's close
Yeah.
to our heart. Yeah,
Yeah, and what we have to see people living with dementia like that, like, okay, you don't understand me anymore, but I can make you feel this way. I can make you laugh. I can like, he does my 7-year-old niece, like he does not remember her name or anything like that, but he looks at her all the time. Like when she's around, like he just looks at her and you can see the love in his eyes, like he
that's
can't
good.
talk, but he just look where Dominic is, like my father follows. So like she makes him feel good and that is something right there.
John, did you have a question?
Well, I just maybe more of a comment than a question. I'm going through right now. My mother is 96 and in a home in Woodstock, and she's had was diagnosed with dementia years ago, and it's been a very slow, nothing fast. She still knows me, but her short-term memory is pretty well gone.
Mm.
And I have a cousin who would be like a brother to me who lives in the Salisbury area, and he was doing he was diagnosed with dementia probably 2 years ago, and things were going not too bad. I mean, he was going down, but right before Christmas, he had a major um, situation, and he's now in a home. It happened that fast, and personality change and the whole deal. But in your presentation, I think what makes your presentation very special, and I know that not everyone can be in that situation, but you're going through it yourself.
Yeah.
And when you're telling the stories, anyone who has any relative or has seen people in that situation understand totally, and they feel for what you're going through because they're going through it or they've seen it. And I just think that and again, I know that people can present and they're not in that situation, and that's good. But in your situation, it makes a presentation, I find, much more meaningful and touching and so much more real because you're talking of things that are real and you're experiencing it. And anyone who, again, who has friends or has seen people have been there and somewhat done that. And it just makes it a really good presentation
Yeah. Thank you. No,
because of where you are.
thank you.
Folks, are there other questions? You know, I'll send you out the address for Marie Paul. So if you need to reach out to her, you can do that. You can also find that information about those offices on the website, and they have a good website, and you can search it easily. So if you go onto I think it's called the Alzheimer's Society of New Brunswick,
Yeah.
you'll find their website. And so for some people, this is something that we haven't done at our branches, but I wanted to get you introduced to it because it may be something that you want to do with people in your branch, and you may find out as a result of offering it, there are people in your branch that need help because they either know someone who's a friend, as in my case, or they have a relative or a former colleague that they were close to and now have lost touch with as a result of this awful disease. And so uh, I'll leave it to you to do that, but I'll give you the information. I'll send out her address. You may get a lot, or it'll depend on what people feel is the need of their own members for this. When you look at the statistics of 61% of people in New Brunswick are living in their communities, um, a lot of those people are going to be retired teachers, and we all know them. And I know more than one in my own community. So helping those people to be part of the community and maintain that relationship is something that as teachers we can relate to. It's something that we did all our lives with students, trying to make them feel part of society and help them live in it, that we can still do that for friends and neighbors. So I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us, and you do speak from the heart, and that's always better. So
Thank you. And some
we
notes.
yeah, well, notes help, but it's good to speak from the heart, and we appreciate that. And John's comment, I understand. It was right on the mark, John. I appreciate that.
You're
So
right.
if there are no other questions,
Yes, there are. There's one up in the corner.
okay.
I would just like to say thank you very much for the valuable presentation. I found it very informative. Thank you, Rod, for setting it up.
Okay, Joe, thank you very much.
I'd
Here,
like,
here.
are you able to hear me?
Yep, I can
Okay.
hear you.
I apologize. First of all, I got on, but I had my phone to my ear. I hope you weren't looking at my ear canal, but I couldn't get any volume. Anyway, once again, a very great presentation. I got to hear it all at least. And I just wanted to share one little story. I put this invitation out to my branch members 3 times at least, and one of them's on, which is really wonderful. However, one of our colleagues is dealing with the situation with her father with severe dementia. He's still living at home, and I thought it was a very interesting story. I was speaking to her a couple of years ago, or a couple of days ago, I'm sorry, and she was saying that her dad needs 24 hours care, so he's still in his home. They have someone staying with them. However, at Christmas time, she and her sister's son went to spend Christmas with him. She said he didn't have a clue who we were. However, he welcomed us into the house. We had 2 days of a wonderful visit with our dad, she said. He remembered how to play cards. They played cards with him. They played board games, and they just had a wonderful 48 hours with him. And I thought as part of the communication, I wanted to share that. What a great thing that they did. And I don't know, I didn't hear earlier if we're going to get a copy of this presentation, but I would love for her to see it.
Okay. Randy, it's going to be available online. It'll be on our website. And you can go and just take your computer and you can show people this presentation. It'll be there.
Okay, fabulous.
And then you'll be on it too, Randy.
Yeah, I'll inform her as well about that being available. Perhaps I missed that in the beginning. Once again, thanks a lot. It was a great presentation.
Good. Thanks for joining us. Any other questions? I'm glad you saw Randy there, Pam. I couldn't see him. Any others? Well, if not, I want to thank. We'll take ourselves off mute and give you a little round of applause here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And if there's something that you cannot locate on our website, Rob has my email. Email me and I will forward you or introduce you to the correct person, the correct department. I can be your go-to person. Do not hesitate.
Okay. Well, it's really nice to have you as a go-to person here, and I'll be sending the information out to our branch presidents here so they all have your email. So you may get to hear from a few of them. Thank you all for coming today, and I'll sign off. And thank you, Marie Paul, for being with us. It's been great as far as I'm concerned too. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, folks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.